The weird thing about Fomalhaut b isn't its name, but the fact that it doesn't exist. It was first photographed back in 2008 and was a sensation. Scientists believe it to be a massive exoplanet, but it turned out to have low mass, and it's falling to pieces of dust at the moment. It acts like a massive dust cloud. Gliese 1214b is quite extraordinary with its steamy environment. Wait, but steam is the result of water evaporation, isn't it? In fact, this hot planet is full of water-like substances. It's definitely hotter than our planet, with its 250 to 540 degrees Fahrenheit. It can also be an ocean planet. Still, very little is known about it since it was first discovered only back in 2009. If you ever wondered what it's like to walk on ice and hot coals at the same time, meet Gliese 436b. Being extremely close to its sun, the Neptune-sized exoplanet boasts temperatures hotter than a blazing oven, and yet it's covered in ice, which burns incessantly. This ice is much denser due to the enormous gravity of the planet, staying solid even under extreme conditions and not melting away. But Gliese seems a nice place with quite mild climate compared to an oven-like Corot 7b. Its stated day temperature is over 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Combined with the rocky surface, it presents a kind of underworld landscape. The rocks on the ground bubble and boil, evaporating in the atmosphere, where they cool down and eventually fall back on the surface in a brimstone rain. The saddest thing about Corot 7b is that it might have once been a gas giant whose atmosphere melted away from the heat, leaving only the scorched core. Corot Exo 3b is neither as hot as the previous one, nor as cold as many other planets. It's a gas giant similar in size to Jupiter, yet 20 times denser. It makes this exoplanet's gravity weigh down on everything on its surface 50 times more than it would on Earth. Stepping on it would be your ultimate doom, because you'd be immediately crushed by the density of its atmosphere. TRES 2b is a planet where night never ends, and it's not your regular night with stars shining in the beautiful skies. Here, it's pitch dark and scorching hot. TRES 2b is a gas giant, roughly 1.5 times more massive than Jupiter, and its surface absorbs light better than charcoal. It might also have a faint dark red glow because of its burning air, which is as hot as fresh lava. It may mistakenly seem that Saturn does have an Earthen-friendly environment. Some layers of this giant gas sphere actually have quite nice temperature conditions. If you dive into Saturn, you'll get to a layer with liquid molecules with 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which seems like Earth. Anyway, it's only one minor layer, and the rest of the planet is freezing cold. So you'll never be able to land on Saturn and be the same human being like you are on Earth. But you can become a sort of snowball there, or an ice crystal. As for Jupiter, you might have already guessed that there's no solid land. This planet is made of hydrogen and helium, so it's another gas sphere you can't walk on. It's a bit different from Saturn though. You wouldn't dive in Jupiter, you'd rather float on it. This planet is like a giant cloud, and if you ever landed on it, it would be like walking through a super thick fog. The temperatures fluctuate a lot here. It's freezing on the surface. Unlike Saturn, the deeper you dive, the more scorching this gas sphere gets. Oxygen is usually viewed as an element that might bring life to a planet, but this is definitely not the case for Osiris. Scientists were shocked to find oxygen on this planet, or rather around it, because it's 8 times closer to its star than Mercury is to the Sun. This extreme distance makes Osiris a living melting pot where anything that could burn will. It's also responsible for a very short orbit of the planet around its star. A year on Osiris is just 3.5 days on Earth. To boot, the atmosphere of the planet is constantly blown and melted away by the heat from its sun. WASP 76b is another weirdly dangerous planet where it rains. No, not wasps. It's so hot out there, over 4,300 degrees Fahrenheit, that it vaporizes iron. So, it rains iron. It's another gas giant, just like Jupiter. Its extreme proximity to the Sun divides the planet in two. One half has a never-ending day, while the other has eternal night. Meet WASP-12b, one of the weirdest and saddest planets out there. The enormous gravity of its star, combined with the planet consisting mostly of gas, result in the star slowly devouring its protege. WASP-12b has already taken the form of an egg, stretched towards its merciless sun and unable to do anything with its condition. In another 10 million years, the planet will inevitably succumb to the voracious star's appetite. No list of the weirdest planets could do without mentioning Venus, the Earth's evil twin. The second planet from the Sun has an atmosphere so thick and full of clouds that its surface is much hotter than that of Mercury, despite being somewhat farther from the Sun. Volcanic eruptions constantly thrash Venus. Its gravity is almost 100 times stronger than ours, and those clouds I mentioned are not made of water, but of sulfuric acid, which condenses and rains down on the ground, adding to the inferno. But even if you were brave, or crazy, enough to try to pass through those clouds, you probably couldn't. The winds up there are as strong as some of the most powerful hurricanes back on Earth. One more freezing cold planet is the one I dare not pronounce. Although the host star is not too far away, it's a small and rather cool red dwarf whose light and heat barely even reach the planet. The temperatures out there fall as low as -370 degrees Fahrenheit, which is only marginally warmer than absolute zero. The exoplanet is thus dark, gloomy, and covered in eternal ice. Still, if it has a rocky core, it might generate some heat, so there is a chance that deep below the frozen surface, we could build a nice thermal spa hotel for space travelers. The next planet that sounds like a tongue twister is the only exoplanet in the orbit of its star, and at first glance, it looks quite pretty. Blue and white swirls making up wondrous patterns on the surface. But these pleasant colors actually come from hard silicate particles in the planet's atmosphere, which means it rains glass here. But the worst thing is that winds reach the speed of 5,400 miles per hour, or almost Mach 7. For comparison, the fastest wind speed on Earth was 254 miles per hour, over 20 times less. Thus, the glass falling from the sky travels horizontally at hypersonic speeds, shredding everything in its path. Here's another name we'll just leave on the screen, thank you. This magnetic rogue planet, let's call it SIMP, has probably the best auroras in the universe, putting our northern lights to shame. Dimidium, located roughly 50 light-years away from our solar system, is a planet hostile to any living thing on many accounts. It's tidally locked to its sun, which means one of its sides is always facing the star, while the other is always turned away. The hot side is heated to over 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit, perpetually blown over with winds reaching 600 miles per hour. Despite Dimidium being a gas giant, it has a large amount of iron in it, which melts and evaporates in the atmosphere, creating clouds. And when these cool down, they fall on the surface in the infernal rain of molten iron. In the star system of 55 Cancri, there are 5 planets, 4 of which are gas giants similar to Jupiter and Saturn. But the 5th one, or rather, the first, because it's closest to the star, is different in a most horrible way. 55 Cancri E is so close to its sun that half the planet's surface is a literal ocean of molten lava. The other half is in eternal darkness because it never sees the sun. The planet is always turned to its star with one side. And between the scorching and the dark, there's the twilight zone, a thin strip of gloomy nothingness. The system whose name I wouldn't even try to pronounce has 3 exoplanets, which are all being slowly destroyed by their own star. It happens because that star is not a regular one. It's a pulsar, a rapidly spinning core of an exploded star. It creates powerful electromagnetic pulses in several directions, while rotating at several thousand times per second. As a result, the planets orbiting this deceased star are slowly being eaten away and will eventually disappear entirely.
The oldest black holes we've ever seen, a measurement of distant starlight that threatens to bring the standards of cosmology crashing down, and even a preview of our solar system's gory demise. All these discoveries were made by the James Webb Space Telescope in 2023. Let's find out more about these and other stunning findings of the powerful space instrument. Soon after coming online in 2022, James Webb discovered 6 ginormous galaxies containing almost as many stars as the Milky Way. They dated a mere 500 million years after the Big Bang. It put into doubt our current understanding of the universe, pointing to a deepening mystery of how giant galaxies first appeared in the universe. After having conducted a few simulations, though, some astronomers now claim that the galaxies might not be so ancient. They could just be glowing unusually brightly. James Webb has also found the oldest black hole in the universe and did it twice. The first one, called Sears 1019, had a mass 10 million times that of the Sun. It was found by the telescope a mere 570 million years after the Big Bang. But James Webb didn't rest on its laurels. It discovered an even older, massive black hole. It appeared 440 million years after the beginning of the universe. How these enormous space-time raptures grew to such gigantic scale so early on is a baffling mystery. At the moment, astronomers are considering the idea of black holes forming from the rapid collapse of giant clouds of gas. At the same time, some black holes could have been seeded by hypothesized primordial black holes. Those are believed to have been created mere moments after the universe began. The Webb telescope has also cast doubt on the standard model of cosmology. You see, the universe is expanding, but it's doing so at different rates, depending on where we look. In the past, the 2 best experiments measuring the expansion rate showed different results. Cosmologists thought it could be due to some uncertainties in the work of the Hubble Space Telescope. But James Webb snuffed out that hope, providing researchers with yet another speed of expansion. One more astonishing discovery was dozens of unexplainable rogue objects floating through space in pairs. Those are couples of Jupiter-sized space bodies. Some of them were spotted as far apart from each other as 390 times the distance between Earth and the Sun. These objects are too small to be stars, but they're also unlikely to be rogue planets ejected from their solar systems. Now, this next discovery is even cooler. The JWST has an amazing ability. It can measure a spectrum of the atmospheres of distant exoplanets. This feature allowed it to spot the potential signs of life in a water world located 120 light-years away from Earth. This exoplanet is a sub-Neptune planet, weighing somewhere between the mass of Earth and Neptune. It orbits in the habitable zone of a red dwarf star. After examining its atmosphere, James Webb discovered that it was rich in hydrogen, methane, and carbon dioxide. These are chemical markers of a hydrogen-rich world that is likely to host extraterrestrial life. Now, stars and galaxies aren't spread through the universe evenly. They're connected by an enormous cosmic web. You can think of it as a network of crisscrossing celestial superhighways paved with hydrogen gas and dark matter. And the James Webb Telescope spotted the earliest strands of this web ever seen. It was a gassy tendril made of 10 closely packed galaxies spanning more than 3 million light-years in length. It formed when the universe was just 830 million years old. The tendril is partially wrapped around a bright black hole. Another phenomenon on James Webb's list of space distance records was the most distant gravitationally lensed object. It's an Einstein ring, produced by the warping of light from a distant galaxy around a mysterious dense foreground galaxy. How distant is it, you may ask? 21 billion light-years away. That's how. And given the universe is only 13.8 billion years of age, the light from the galaxy has traveled almost twice that distance due to the expansion of space. And finally, James Webb has zoomed in on a gory preview of the sun's distant future. This ring-shaped space object is Ring Nebula. 2,200 light-years remains of an exploded star. At its center, there's a tiny white dwarf, the last remaining piece of the star's core left after it exploded outward. The explosion most likely destroyed or ejected all unfortunate planets in its way. A similar fate is likely to befall our own solar system in 5 billion years.
It's been more than a year since the James Webb Telescope, which had taken over 20 years to complete, was launched. And for such a relatively short time, the ultra-modern and most powerful in history piece of equipment has already made plenty of discoveries. By observing the universe at infrared wavelength, James Webb lets us see things no other telescope has ever shown before. The primary goal of this incredible piece of equipment is to study the formation of galaxies and stars that appeared in the early universe. For example, look at the closest to us stellar nursery, a region of space where new stars get born. NASA has shared an image from James Webb that shows a small star-forming region. If you look at the picture attentively, you'll see jets bursting from infant stars. Around them, different colored clouds of cosmic dust are colliding with one another. The view is mesmerizing. The red dust consists of molecular hydrogen. You can also notice that some stars have something like shadows. Those hint at the creation of what will later become planets. At first sight, the image may seem chaotic, but astronomers claim that it's a relatively small and quiet stellar nursery in comparison to some others. Many young stars there are similar in size to our Sun, or a bit smaller. The photo itself was taken with the help of Webb's near-infrared camera, NIRCam. It's the observatory's primary camera that snaps images of the cosmos in 2 different infrared ranges. Another amazing discovery the Webb telescope has made is smoke molecules in a distant galaxy. It's the first time such molecules have been discovered so far away from our planet. The galaxy in question lies 12.3 billion light-years away from Earth. It most likely formed about 1.5 billion years after the Big Bang. Despite such a huge distance between the galaxy and our planet, scientists have managed to detect chemical compounds found in soot or smoke, and it's quite a big deal since it has pushed the record for detecting similar complex molecules back by around 1 billion years. This study has also confirmed the sheer power of the coolest piece of space equipment of all time. It managed to make this discovery despite the fact that the spectrometer needed for the measurements didn't perform to the fullest after having experienced a sudden and surprising degradation. The James Webb Telescope has also helped to boost our understanding of exoplanets. Those are planets orbiting stars other than our own Sun. At the beginning of 2023, the observatory spotted its first exoplanet, LHS 475b. It's located 41 light-years away from Earth and is approximately the same size as our planet. According to NASA, nowadays, James Webb is the only operating telescope capable of categorizing the atmosphere of Earth-sized exoplanets. The research team behind the discovery believes such results underline the precision of the telescope. They hope that it will help us locate many more rocky exoplanets that we might be able to colonize in the future. Even though, at first sight, it may seem that the universe is pretty empty, it's actually a very busy place. And Webb has all the necessary instruments to see all kinds of cosmic events happening out there. Just look at this image of WR-124. It's a star on the cusp of its explosive demise. In the image, the star is about to go supernova. It happens when a star runs out of its fuel and explodes at the end of its life cycle, releasing a giant cloud of space dust and hot gas into space. The star captured by the Webb telescope was at the Wolf-Rayet stage of its life. That's a period when a star is shedding its outer layers before going supernova. The next amazing thing discovered by James Webb is a star-planet hybrid with very strange clouds. This bizarre world, VHS 1256b, is actually a brown dwarf. Those are bigger than planets but too small to classify as stars. They emit some light of their own and are quite hot, but their mass is simply not enough to fuse hydrogen into helium like full-fledged stars do. Space bodies of this kind aren't actually brown. They occur in a wide variety of colors, but those are mostly invisible to the human eye. What we can see is the light they emit, and to us, it appears to be dark orange or magenta. The brown dwarf discovered by the Webb telescope is almost 20 times the size of Jupiter. It orbits 2 red dwarf stars, and to complete one orbit, it needs over 10,000 years. Astronomers first found out about this unusual exoplanet in 2016, but at that time, they didn't classify it as a brown dwarf, and, thus, couldn't explain its puzzling reddish glow. Now, thanks to the James Webb Telescope, they know the space object's origin. Anyway, back to those clouds. As you know, clouds on Earth are made of water vapor. But those on the brown dwarf are different. They seem to be made of sand. It looks like good old sand from Earth, but it's actually not. The clouds are made of tiny particles of silicate. Another recent discovery involves several large galaxies that scientists believe were born not long after the Big Bang. They aren't supposed to be there, and no one expected to find them. But the James Webb Space Telescope has spotted them. These galaxies, as massive as our home Milky Way, are full of mature red stars. Astronomers have analyzed the light coming from them and estimated their age 500 to 700 million years after the Big Bang. It means that they came into being when our universe was very young, almost a baby. But the most bizarre thing about these galaxies is their tremendous size and the age of the stars dwelling there. The data received by the telescope don't coincide with the existing ideas about what the universe looked like and how it evolved in its early years. It also doesn't match the earlier observations made by Hubble. And here, James Webb has captured a distant region of space in unprecedented detail. This section of space is known as Pandora's cluster. In the image, you can see 3 massive clusters of galaxies coming together and forming a megacluster. The combined mass of these clusters acts as a powerful gravitational lens. And thanks to this natural magnification effect, scientists can see other galaxies in the region. Astronomers claim that the most recent image of Pandora's cluster is stronger and deeper than they have ever seen. James Webb has also managed to spot thousands of young stars never seen before in the Tarantula Nebula. This space formation got its nickname because of the appearance of dusty filaments spotted in previous images. It's the biggest star-forming region in the local group, which includes the galaxies nearest to the Milky Way. The Webb telescope's images have helped to shed light on the composition of the Tarantula Nebula. The telescope has also detected protostars, infant stars in the process of gaining mass. Astronomers expect that these protostars will eventually form and shape the nebula further. Among other discoveries made by the James Webb Telescope, you can see the birth of 50 distant stars. Some of them power protoplanetary disks, which might later form solar systems light years away from our own. Here's one more image from James Webb. You can see a supermassive black hole that has a mass of 9 billion suns. It's so ginormous and ancient that scientists are struggling to explain its existence. Astronomers have also discovered a distant ring of dust, rock, and gas that contains a chemical called methylcation. It's known as a molecular building block of life, and it makes most of the organic material on our planet. James Webb helped researchers see powerful sandstorms on a planet 235 trillion miles away. Astronomers were happy to discover this treasure chest of countless tiny sand particles. Now look at this. Do you recognize this image? Those are the so-called pillars of creation. But this new view shows us just how star-speckled that dusty region actually is. You can compare the new photo with the one taken by Hubble in 2014. This is astonishing proof of scientific progress.
Recently, the James Webb Space Telescope has unearthed a mysterious ancient galaxy, and it might completely change our understanding of the nature of dark matter and the process of galaxy formation. The telescope has managed to spot a stellar population bigger than our home Milky Way galaxy from 11 billion years ago, and it shouldn't actually exist. This galaxy is massive and is home to extremely old stars. They formed in the early universe. The problem is that this new observation upends our current cosmological models, since by the time of the galaxy's birth, Not enough dark matter had built up to seed such a formation. Researchers have been chasing this particular galaxy for 7 years. They spent endless hours observing it with the help of the 2 largest telescopes on our planet to figure out how old it was. Unfortunately, it was too faint and too red, so no one could measure it. Only after scientists moved their observations to space and started using the James Webb Telescope did they manage to confirm the nature of the galaxy. The thing is, unlike the Hubble Space Telescope, which orbits around Earth, James Webb moves around the Sun 1 million miles away from Earth. That's why it made it possible to see the galaxy clearer. Previously, astronomers were sure that in early cosmic times, there were very few huge galaxies. But recent findings challenge these theoretical models. Extremely massive dormant galaxies have been discovered as early as 1 to 2 billion years after the Big Bang and the beginning of the universe. The scientist who led the spectral analysis of the James Webb Telescope data said that they were doing everything possible to confirm the oldest galaxies that existed deep in the universe. When they did, it pushed the boundaries of the current understanding of how galaxies form and evolve. And now, the main question is, how they managed to form so fast in the early universe, and what enigmatic mechanisms made them stop forming stars all of a sudden while the rest of the universe was still doing so. Galaxy formation is largely dictated by the concentration of dark matter. You see, around 84% of matter in the universe doesn't emit or absorb light. Astronomers call this stuff, which can neither be seen directly nor detected by indirect means, dark matter. It supposedly affects visible matter, radiation, and the very structure of the universe. Finding extremely massive galaxies so early in the universe is posing serious challenges to our standard model of cosmology. All because astronomers don't think that such monstrous dark matter structures as the ones hosting those massive galaxies had enough time to form. Researchers need more time to figure out how common such ancient galaxies are and how massive they can be. But if they manage to find more of those, it will really upset our ideas of galaxy formation. But it could improve our understanding of the physics of dark matter. Bizarre ancient galaxies aren't the only thing discovered thanks to James Webb. For example, scientists have long suspected that supermassive black holes could have existed in the early universe, and this theory has been proven only thanks to the JWST and its infrared eye. It showed that an ancient black hole within galaxy Sears 1019 was actively munching on all the matter it could lay its hands on. This hole is from the times when our universe was less than 600 million years old. And that's another mystery we're yet to crack. It's supposed to take way longer than 600 million years for a supermassive black hole to grow to its full potential. Astronomers were watching the galaxy hosting the unusually old black hole as part of the Cosmic Evolution Early Release Science Survey. They saw the galaxy as it was when our 13.8 billion-year-old universe was just 570 million years old. Besides the ancient black hole, scientists spotted 2 other ones. Those probably appeared 1 and 1.1 billion years after the Big Bang. They also discovered 11 ancient galaxies that existed between 470 and 675 million years after the beginning of cosmic history.
The James Webb Telescope, or JWST, is like the ultimate intergalactic paparazzi. It takes pictures of some of the most famous celebrities in the universe. Stars, galaxies, exoplanets, you name it. The James Webb Space Telescope will snap a photo. So if you're a fan of cosmic celebrities, let's take a look at some of these best star-studded photos. The Carina Nebula. The image of the nebula with the beautiful name Carina was published on July 12th. JWST captured a beautiful view of the nebula, located about 7,500 light-years from Earth. Nicknamed the Cosmic Cliffs, it is, in fact, a hotbed of young stars, some of which are several times larger than our Sun. The Carina Nebula is a celestial spectacle located in the southern constellation Carina. It's really huge, approximately 260 light-years across. Massive stars within this nebula are so bright and hot that they create a glowing cloud of gas and dust around them. The Carina Nebula also contains swirling clouds of gas and dust where new stars are being born. The gas collapses under its own weight, becomes hotter and denser, and all this eventually leads to the creation of new stars. However, The Carina Nebula isn't just some peaceful place of star formation. It's the site of some of the most destructive events in the universe, which create massive shockwaves that obliterate everything in their path. Very chaotic and cool. The Stefan's Quintet. This photo was also posted on July 12th. Stefan's Quintet is a visual group of 5 galaxies located at a huge distance from us. About 290 million light-years in the constellation of Pegasus. It's like a cosmic family reunion. All these galaxies are related to each other and interact with each other in some interesting ways. They're pulling and tugging on each other with their gravity, constantly exchanging gas and dust. This interaction is causing some of the galaxies to collide and merge, which can create all sorts of cool effects, like bursts of star formation and supernovae. Thanks to JWST, we were able to see shockwaves, tidal tails, and other amazing details about these galaxies. Their interactions create a stunning sight that we can see in this photo. Jupiter. And here's our old giant friend. This image was published by NASA on August 22nd. Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system, and it's known for its many moons and its beautiful swirling clouds. But it also has a system of rings, just like Saturn, which are made up of tiny particles of dust that orbit the planet. These rings are much smaller and less visible than Saturn's, but they're still pretty neat. Jupiter also has auroras, which are colorful light displays that occur in the planet's atmosphere. They're caused by charged particles from the solar wind interacting with Jupiter's magnetic field. Just like on Earth, they can be seen near the poles of the planet. But these auroras are much brighter and more intense than ours. We can even see this crazy light show from space. And now, we were finally able to capture this dazzling sight. JWST's photo shows the auroras of Jupiter, its rings, and even 2 moons, Amalthea and Adrastea. It's amazing how bright and clear they are on this photo. The Cartwheel Galaxy. NASA released this image on August 2nd. This photo shows us the Cartwheel Galaxy and its companions. The Cartwheel Galaxy gets its name from its shape. It kind of looks like a cartwheel, doesn't it? This is a giant, swirling mass of stars, gas, and dust, which is located in the depths of space. It's shaped like a pinwheel with long spiral arms. These arms are held together by the gravity of the central region, which is home to a supermassive black hole. But the Cartwheel Galaxy is a bit different from its spiral relatives. It has formed when a smaller galaxy collided with a larger one, creating a shockwave that rippled through the gas and dust. We'll definitely have to visit this galaxy someday. It's sure to be a wild ride. Spiral Galaxy M74. And here comes another spiral galaxy. NASA released this image on July 22nd. JWST had to peer through thick layers of dust and gas to see this beautiful star cluster. M74 belongs to a special class of spiral galaxies known as the Grand Design Galaxy. This means that its spiral arms are noticeable and clearly outlined. All sorts of amazing things are happening inside of spiral galaxies. Supernovas, stars being born in clouds of gas and dust, and many other cosmic wonders. The glowing gas and dust, the bright stars, and the swirling patterns of the spiral arms make them some of the most striking objects in the universe. Well, we can clearly see it on the example of M74. The Tarantula Nebula. This image of the nebula with a creepy name Tarantula was published on September 6th. The photo covers as much as 340 light-years across. This is a huge distance. Thanks to this image, astronomers have discovered new young stars that were previously shrouded in dust. The Tarantula Nebula is located 160,000 light-years away from us, in the Large Magellanic Cloud. It's the largest and brightest star-forming region in the local group, the galaxies nearest our Milky Way. It's named after its shape, which looks like a bit like the legs of a big tarantula. It's a vast region of space, about 1,000 light-years across, and it's home to some of the most massive and luminous stars in the universe. One of the reasons why the Tarantula Nebula is interesting to scientists is its composition. Its composition is close to the region of stars of the cosmic noon, the so-called state of our universe when it was only a few billion years old. At that time, star formation was at its peak. Thanks to the Webb telescope, we can study this galaxy better and find out what our universe was like at its peak. Neptune's rings. This photo was published on September 21st, 2022. In this photo, we can even see 6 small moons next to the planet, with Triton shining brightly in the upper left corner. You didn't think it was the sun, did you? And yep, Neptune has rings too. They're like the ultimate cosmic accessory. They add a touch of glamour and style to the planet. But unlike some earthly bling, these rings are made of small particles of dust, rather than diamonds and gold. There are 5 known rings around Neptune: the Gall, Leverrier, Lassell, Arago, and Adam's rings. Scientists think that these are relatively young, much younger than our solar system, and much younger than, for example, Uranus's rings. They were probably created when one of Neptune's inner moons got too close to the planet and was torn apart by gravity. We haven't seen Neptune's rings so brightly since Voyager 2 flew past it back in 1989. So this is a great opportunity to take a closer look at these rings. The Pillars of Creation. This photo was published on October 19th. The Pillars of Creation became famous thanks to the Hubble telescope, but this photo is very lush and much more detailed. These columns, located in the Eagle Nebula, are about 5 light-years tall, which is really, really long. And they look like some majestic rock formations, only much more transparent. Just like a typical Hollywood movie set, they're full of action and special effects. They're home to some of the most dramatic processes in the universe. The gas and dust are collapsing under their own gravity, forming clumps that will eventually become stars. The place is full of intense radiation, jets of high-energy particles, and supernovae. It's like a cosmic version of Survivor. And if this wasn't creepy enough, here's another photo published by NASA on October 19th. They shared it right before Halloween. Here, the pillars resemble an eerie hand reaching for something. Brrr. Anyway, all these photos give us a truly awe-inspiring sight. They remind us of the incredible complexity of the universe and the amazing things that are happening even in the darkest and most remote corners of the cosmos. Let's hope that the James Webb Telescope will continue to amaze us in the future. Saturn's iconic rings will disappear in less than 2 years. Soon, we won't be able to see Jupiter's Great Red Spot. Pluto's atmosphere might vanish any day now. Even the universe itself could be slowly evaporating right at this moment. But let me start from the very beginning. Saturn's rings won't vanish forever, at least in the near future, but they will seemingly disappear from view. This phenomenon is caused by the planet's tilt as it orbits the Sun. As a result, the eye-catching rings adorning the gas giant will get invisible to stargazers in 2025. This outrageous disappearance occurs because Saturn's thin rings turn edge-on. It's like holding a sheet of paper horizontally at eye level parallel to the ground so that only the edge of the paper can be seen. Something similar happens to the gas giant's rings. As the seasons on the planet progress, instead of the southern side of the rings tilted our way, we start seeing the northern side. But then the planet tilts again, revealing the southern side once again. Such a ring plane crossing happens every 15 years when our planet passes through the gas giant's ring plane. The last time this phenomenon occurred was in 2009. Afterward, the rings gradually became visible again over the course of several months. This time, the rings will be on edge in March 2025. Then they will slowly come back into view and disappear again in November of the same year. Soon after that, the rings will reappear, first becoming visible to the largest telescopes, later for everyone else to see. At the same time, further into the future, the rings might cease to exist for good. astronomers have concluded that Saturn's rings, which mostly consist of ice and rocky dust from smashed asteroids, are younger than we thought. They're losing tons and tons of mass per second all the time, and it's likely to be a few 100 million years at most before they vanish completely. Let's move to the Great Red Spot on Jupiter. This immense raging storm might stop spinning in the next 20 years. The storm in question is larger than our planet. It was first spotted in 1830, but observations from the 1600s mentioned the presence of a giant spot on Jupiter too. If it was the same Great Red Spot, then we can say that the storm has been raging for centuries. The storm's vortex has remained so powerful thanks to Jupiter's 300 to 400 mile-per-hour jet streams. But like any other storm, the Great Red can't keep raging forever. It's been shrinking for a long time. In a decade or two, it's predicted to turn into GRC, the Great Red Circle, and who knows, maybe it will later turn into the GRM, the Great Red Memory. In the late 1800s, the storm was more than 35,000 miles across, 4 times the diameter of Earth. But when Voyager 2 flew past Jupiter in 1979, the storm had already shrunk almost twice its original size. And this shrinking is still happening. In 2017, the GRS spanned the width of a bit more than 10,150 miles, less than 1.3 times the diameter of Earth. Moving on, Pluto's atmosphere is going through a weird transformation. This icy dwarf planet sitting over 3 billion miles away from Earth in the region of the Kuiper Belt drew astronomers' attention in 2018 when it passed in front of a star. With such a powerful source of light illuminating Pluto, researchers managed to examine the dwarf planet and its atmosphere. They came to a shocking conclusion that Pluto's atmosphere is refreezing back onto its surface as the dwarf planet gets colder and colder. Astronomers used several telescopes in different spots in the USA and Mexico to observe Pluto and its thin atmosphere, which is mainly made of nitrogen. This atmosphere is supported by the vapor pressure of ice on the surface of the dwarf planet. For around 25 years, Pluto has been moving further away from the Sun, and its surface temperature has been gradually going down. Pluto is really far from our star at the moment, but at one point it will start getting closer in other regions of its incredibly huge orbit. Besides Jupiter's Great Red Spot, Saturn's rings, and Pluto's atmosphere, we're also losing stars. But stars don't vanish, right? For thousands of years, scientists believed that lights in the sky were fixed and unchanging. Even after they realized those lights were physical objects, just like the sun, they were still sure that stars went through major changes extremely slowly, on timescales of millions and billions of years. In reality, though, the most massive stars, which can be hundreds of times heavier than the sun, can go through sudden catastrophic events. For example, once they reach the ends of their lives, they pass away in blinding explosions of supernovae, shining for months on end and visible across hundreds of millions of light years. But there are stars that seem to just wink out of visibility. It should be impossible. And over the past years, a group of researchers tried to figure out whether there's actually a chance of such a phenomenon happening. They started to compare data collected over decades of observations. The project is called VASCO, the Vanishing and Appearing Sources During a Century of Observations. The scientists are interested in all kinds of disappearing objects, but they're hoping to find a star that was steady and present for a long time, and then just vanished without a trace. Even if you point a super powerful telescope there, you'll still see nothing. Our current understanding of space and its laws suggest that stars change very slowly over long periods of time. Dramatic disappearances are supposed to leave noticeable traces behind. Of course, it doesn't mean that all stars should shine steadily. The sky is filled with stars that change in brightness and pulsate. But VASCO is about something very different. They want to find something that goes from a completely steady star to vanishing entirely. Such a phenomenon hasn't been documented yet, and such a discovery might lead to new physics. And now, let's move on to the most disturbing part, the one about the evaporating universe. According to a famous theory proposed by Stephen Hawking, black holes, the densest objects in the universe, evaporate over time. They lose mass in the form of bizarre radiation. But a new study claims that Hawking radiation, or something very similar to it, might not be limited to black holes. It's likely to be everywhere, and it could mean that the universe is slowly but surely evaporating right in front of our eyes. Now, Hawking radiation is something no one has ever observed, but theories and experiments suggest that it can actually exist. Let's see how it works. There's a misconception that black holes are cosmic hoovers, slurping up everything that comes too close with the help of their immense gravitational pull. In reality, though, black holes don't have more gravity than any other body of a similar mass. What they're famous for is their density, incredible amounts of mass packed into a tiny space. Within a certain proximity to such a dense object, gravitational pull becomes so powerful that it becomes impossible to escape. Not even the speed of light in a vacuum is enough, and that's the fastest known thing in the universe. At the same time, anything massive or dense enough can produce a serious curvature of space-time. In simple words, the immense gravitational field of these objects makes space-time wrap around them. Even though black holes are the most extreme example, space-time also curves around other super-dense objects, like white dwarfs, and neutron stars or galaxy clusters. It means that any super-dense and supermassive object can have some sort of radiation similar to Hawking radiation. And after a very, very long period of time, it could lead to everything in the universe evaporating, following the fate of old supermassive black holes. If it turns out to be true, it will change our understanding not only of Hawking radiation, but also our view of the universe and its and our future.
Have you heard about a diamond star that could put all the riches on Earth to shame? Or how about twinkling stars with surfaces made of solid iron? So let's take a look at these weird stars and try to unravel their mysteries. There's a star in the Centaurus constellation that was nicknamed Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Yes, it was named after a Beatles song, because it basically is a Beatles song. You see, the star was discovered to have a massive diamond at its core. Now, you may be wondering how big this diamond really is. Well, it's estimated to be about 10 billion trillion carats. That's a 1 followed by 34 zeros. To put that into perspective, the Hope Diamond, which is one of the largest diamonds on Earth, is a measly 45.5 carats in comparison. Can you imagine the size of the ring you could make with this star diamond? And it's about the same mass as our sun. But don't get too excited about the prospect of owning this diamond just yet. Even if you were Jeff Bezos, you wouldn't be able to afford it. According to Ronald Winston, CEO of Harry Winston Inc., the diamond is so big that it would likely depress the value of the market. So you'd have to settle for a much smaller diamond engagement ring. One interesting thing about the Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds star is that it's incredibly dense. In fact, it has the mass of the sun crammed into an object only a third the diameter of Earth. That's like trying to fit an elephant into a shoebox. And yet, despite its massive size, it's actually quite cool, with a core temperature of only about 12,000 degrees Fahrenheit. By comparison, the core temperature of our sun is about 27 million degrees Fahrenheit. Since the discovery of Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, several other crystallized stars have been found, some with diamond hearts the size of Earth. It just goes to show that the universe is full of surprises, and you never know what kind of treasures you might find out there in the vast expanse of space. And this isn't the only weird star we've discovered so far. There are many strange, unexplained things in outer space. For example, let's take Vega. Vega, also known as Alpha Lyrae, is a bright star located in the constellation Lyra. It's one of the brightest stars in the night sky and is easily visible to the naked eye from most parts of the world. Now, Vega may look like a beautiful, bright star to us Northern Hemisphere folks, but little do we know, it's hiding a secret. It's actually quite squashed. You see, Vega's high spin rate causes it to bulge at the equator, kind of like a cosmic belly. It rotates once every 12.5 hours, which is pretty fast for a star, and it throws material out around its waistline. It's almost like the star is hula hooping. This material is further from the center of the star, so it experiences less gravity, causing it to cool and darken, leading to a gravity darkening effect. So Vega is basically a cosmic fitness guru's worst nightmare. Although for us stargazers, it still looks round because we're looking at it from Earth's pole end. However, if we saw it from a different angle, we'd get a very different view. One that might make us wonder if Vega has been sneaking some cosmic donuts behind our backs. But while we might joke about its equatorial waistline, there's no denying that Vega is still one of the brightest and most fascinating stars in our galaxy. But if you want something actually bright, then how about a supernova? Supernovas are giant space booms that occur when stars reach the end of their life cycle. It's like the grand finale of a fireworks show, but on a cosmic scale. They release more energy in a few seconds than our sun will produce in its entire lifetime. And this is exactly what happened to the next star of our show. This celestial object with a weird name, IPFT 14HLS. But there's a catch. It isn't your average supernova. Even though this star made a blast in 2014 and started to fade away like usual, recently it made an unexpected comeback and brightened once more. Talk about a dramatic entrance. And if that wasn't enough, this thing continued to fade and brighten at least 5 times in total, which is a bit like a yo-yo. It's like the star just couldn't make up its mind about whether it wanted to stay bright or fade away into the abyss. Also, when scientists measured the supernova's spectrum, they found that it was evolving 10 times slower than other stars. Maybe it's a supernova that just wants to enjoy its golden years. All in all, this object is a real mystery. But this is not the only star suffering from the 2-in-1 syndrome. At first glance, MY Camelopardalis appears to be a fairly common star, but after a closer look, astronomers concluded it was actually 2 stars in one. These 2 stars are orbiting each other at over 600,000 miles per hour. It's a contact binary star system, which means that the stars are so close together that they share a common envelope. In other words, they're so close to each other that they're practically smooching. These celestial Romeo and Juliet are one of the most massive known binary stars out there. Each of them individually weighs in at a whopping 32 and 38 solar masses, respectively. Astronomers also think that they might be on the brink of a stellar merger, which means that one day they might just combine into one giant superstar. Wow, who knew space could be so romantic? Next, introducing another long name, HD 140283, also known as Methuselah's star. This little guy in the constellation Libra has been around for a while, and by a while, I mean a really long time. Actually, scientists used to think it was older than the universe itself. Just imagine if it turned out to be true. But eventually, they figured out that it's actually around 14.8 billion years old, a peer of our universe. That's still pretty impressive though. This star is so old, it remembers when the Milky Way was just a baby galaxy. But despite all that, this star still has some life left in it. It's just starting to expand into a red giant, which is kind of like when you hit your 30s. Talk about aging well. But if all these things are somewhat comprehensible, then how about a star that was literally named WTF star by scientists? No, I'm not kidding. At least it used to be. Now it's called Tabby's star. It also has a more scientific name, but that one is a bit of a mouthful. But what's really bizarre about this star is its irregular dimming. For some reason, it doesn't glow like a normal star, but blinks, as if someone turned on and off a flashlight. And it's not just a little dip. We're talking up to a 22% drop in light. So it's not because it sometimes gets blocked by a planet or something. Scientists have come up with all sorts of explanations for this strange behavior, from comets to dust to even an extraterrestrial megastructure. That's right, but before your imagination runs too wild, it's important to note that the most likely explanation is just plain old dust. Perhaps the star is surrounded by some kind of dust cloud, and sometimes it prevents us from seeing it clearly. Although this explanation is still not 100% confirmed, there are still plenty of mysteries surrounding Tabby's star. One thing's for sure, it may be a bit of an oddball, but that's what makes it so fascinating. So, there you have it, folks. We're left in awe of the incredible diversity and strangeness of the cosmos. There's so much more to discover out there. So let's keep exploring and keep being amazed by the wonders of the universe.
Scientists were looking at a list of gas clouds when they saw something strange. 5 groups of blue stars that are not quite a galaxy and not a known type of star cluster either. These groups of stars are called blue blobs, and they're located in the Virgo galaxy cluster. Now, the big question is, how did these blue blobs form if they don't have any nearby parent galaxy where they could form? Scientists realize there are some heavy metals present in these blobs. Generally, when stars are born, they create heavy elements called metals. These metals are essential building blocks for new stars. In big galaxies, many stars form over time, and as a result, more metals get created too. These heavy metals in the blue blobs were a clue that the stars in these blobs were formed from gas that was stripped from a larger galaxy. Think of it as a piñata. The candy is the gas, and the piñata is this bigger galaxy. The blue blobs are the leftover candy that was scattered around. Wow, didn't expect to get hungry while talking about stars. How did the gas get stripped away from the bigger galaxy anyway? There are 2 ways. When galaxies pass by each other, their gravitational attraction can cause gas to be pulled away from one galaxy and into the other. This is called tidal stripping, and it's the first way these blobs can happen. It's like when 2 magnets attract and pull metal objects toward each other. Another way is ram pressure. This happens when a galaxy moves through a cluster of hot gas at a pretty high speed. The gas in the cluster can push against the gas in the galaxy and force it out back, similar to a car pushing air out of the way as it drives, and you lose your hat in a strong wind. As time goes by, these stars and the blue blobs will keep on moving apart. Eventually, they will form smaller clusters. Have you ever seen pictures of Earth taken from space? They're amazing. But have you seen the one with 2 blue blobs of light? The first blob of light you see here is a large lightning strike in the Gulf of Thailand. It's rare to see lightning from space because of all the clouds, but this one was so huge it lit up the clouds around it like some kind of a brilliant ring. How cool is that? The second blue blob of light is a bit different. We're looking at the reflection of the moon's light on our home planet. The moon actually reflects the light coming from the sun onto the Earth, and when that light goes through the Earth's atmosphere, it creates a big blue blob with a fuzzy outline. It's like a shiny blue hat our planet is wearing. It's similar to the reason why the sky is blue during the day. When sunlight enters Earth's atmosphere, gases and particles in the air scatter it in all directions. Blue light has the shortest and smallest waves, so it gets scattered the most. And that's why we get to enjoy a beautiful view of a clear blue sky. The same thing actually happens to the light coming from the moon. When it reflects off the Earth and goes through the atmosphere, the blue light waves get scattered the most, making the moon appear blue in the photo. Speaking of unusual stars, there's one in the Centaurus constellation called Lucy. It looks like a tiny white dwarf, but it's actually very dense. There's a mass of the entire sun squeezed into an object only a third of the size of our home planet. That's like stuffing a whole watermelon into a golf ball. Lucy is also incredibly cool. Its core temperature is almost 12,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This may sound hot at first, but for comparison, our sun is about 27 million degrees Fahrenheit. And the best part that makes Lucy so special is the diamond at its heart. Its carbon core has crystallized into a massive diamond that's 10 billion trillion carats in size. It's hard to even imagine how big it is. Scientists found out about this awesome diamond by listening to the star's vibrations, which is like a star's heartbeat. And after they discovered Lucy, scientists found some other stars with crystallized cores and massive diamonds the size of Earth, too. Our universe is like a giant jewelry store. Most of the astronomers from the northern hemisphere are familiar with the star named Vega. First, it's brighter than expected. But if you could take a look at it from a different angle, you'd see this star is actually squashed. It has a specific oblong shape because it rotates at a high rate. It spins once every 12.5 hours, which throws the material out around its equator. This material then cools and darkens, and forms a dark, mysterious halo around Vega. When stars reach the end of their lives, they often explode in a dazzling supernova, getting brighter and brighter before they finally fade away. But one supernova, IPF-14Ls, decided not to obey the rules. It started to fade away like most other stars, but then, when everyone expected it to be gone, it suddenly came back to life and brightened up again. And not just once. It kept fading and brightening at least 5 times in a row. Scientists were so surprised to see this. When they measured the light from the supernova, they found it was evolving 10 times slower than other stars. It was aging way more slowly, too. When it looked 60 days old, it was actually 600 days old. It could be even older, because scientists had recorded another supernova in the same spot almost 70 years ago. There are some theories as to how it could have happened. Maybe the supernova was bumping into some surrounding material and then making it glow. Or maybe it was a giant star that was shedding material all the time to prevent, or at least postpone, its own collapse. At first, it may seem like you're looking at a simple variable star here, my Camelopardalis. But when astronomers looked more closely, they realized it was a pair of stars. The two stars are moving around each other at really high speeds, and their atmospheres are starting to mix because they are so close. People believe this example is the start of a union between two stars. In the end, the two celestial bodies, which already weigh 32 and 38 solar masses each, will join together to make a gigantic one with more than 60 solar masses. Scientists have thought for a long time that this is how super big stars form. They've never really seen it happen. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. And from what we can see, one mysterious star, HD 1140283, could be 14.4 billion years old. Something's not right here. This star has all the chemical signs of a second-generation star, which is a star that formed from gas and dust after the first generation of stars exploded. This star, sometimes called Methuselah's star, is 190 light-years away. Its brightness, distance, and composition help us figure out how old it is. At least 13.2 billion years old. While the age of 14.4 billion years is probably put there as a potential range. Even if it's younger than the universe, or is it? It's still by far the oldest star near us. Let's not forget the one with a tail either. It's called Mira. Sometimes it's bright, and other times it's faint, making it a bit of a tricky one to spot in its constellation. Sometimes it's one of the brightest stars up there, while other times it is one of the fainter ones in its constellation. It's the system with two stars, a red giant and a white dwarf. The red giant used to be like our own sun, But now, as it's closer to its end, it's shedding its outer layers into space. And Mira has a comet-like tail too. As the red giant sheds its outer layers, it creates a stream of gas and dust that follows the stars as they move through space.
Now imagine a place where a single day lasts longer than a whole year. On Venus, a day, meaning one full spin on its axis, is as long as 243 Earth days. And what's even weirder, despite the fact that Venus is experiencing a never-ending day, it has a shorter year than Earth. While Earth takes about 365 days to complete one orbit around the Sun, Venus does it in just 225 days. So, somehow, for Venus, a day is more epic than a whole year. Venus is a strange planet in general. It's called Earth's twin because of how alike we are, although it's a bit smaller than Earth. But there are some drastic differences too. For example, it spins in the opposite direction, which means the Sun there rises in the west and sets in the east. And Venus isn't the only one who dances to its own rhythm. Uranus does that too. And finally, Venus is quite crazy in terms of its atmosphere. When you stand on Earth, you don't really feel the weight of the air around you. Well, on Venus, that feeling would be like having an elephant sitting on your shoulders. Venus has 90 times the atmospheric pressure of Earth. The atmosphere there is a thick layer of toxic gases. For example, carbon dioxide that's released by all the volcanoes. It presses down with incredible force. This results in very hot temperatures. No wonder it'll take a long time before we'll be able to stand on this planet. Meanwhile, Mercury, the closest planet to the Sun, has an even more speedy orbit than Venus. It completes a full journey around the Sun in just about 88 Earth days. However, it has a slow spin on its axis, which means that one day on Mercury takes about 176 Earth days, basically half a year. Just like with Venus, a day there takes much longer than a year. Since it's closest to the Sun, no wonder Mercury experiences some super extreme temperature swings. Daytime temperatures can soar up to a scorching 800 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt lead. But wait for the sunset. At night, it drops to freezing minus 290 degrees Fahrenheit. That's because Mercury doesn't have a thick atmosphere like we do, so the heat doesn't distribute across the planet evenly. If one side is in the dark, it'll be super cold, and the other side will be scorching hot, just like if you let a regular big rock lie down under the sun for a while. In fact, it's so cold that there might even be some ice on it. Look at the planet's North Polar region, especially those sunlit yellow spots inside craters. These are indications of water ice. Turns out water is much more common in space than we thought. Mars is often dubbed the Red Planet. It earns this nickname from the abundance of iron oxide, or rust, covering its surface. The iron-rich minerals create a rusty red hue that paints the Martian landscape. But it turns out Mars isn't just red. If you were standing on Mars, you'd witness desert-like butterscotch terrain with caramel and golden glows, some brown, and even a glimpse of a slight greenish hue. Mars also has the biggest mountain in the entire solar system, Olympus Mons, standing at a staggering height of about 13.6 miles tall. It's even taller than Mount Everest. It was formed by the volcanic eruption yielding low-viscosity lava, creating a shield-like structure. Since Mars is covered in sand, it's also famous for its crazy dust storms. But it turns out they're even more insane than we thought. These storms can last for months. While they might present challenges for future human missions, they also contribute to the planet's mesmerizing appearance when observed from afar. And not only storms, but even its own Mars quakes. Also known as seismic tremors, they were first detected by NASA in 2019. Unlike earthquakes that are often triggered by tectonic plate movements, Martian quakes are thought to result from the cooling and contracting of the planet's interior. It's interesting how similar, yet how different the planets are. Saturn's iconic rings might hold a secret link to Earth's ancient past. The rings are composed mainly of ice particles and debris and are estimated to be relatively young in space terms, perhaps just a few 100 million years old. Now, there are some theories that propose that they were born after some catastrophic event. For example, the collision of two large moons or the breakup of a comet. What's interesting is that this timeline coincides with the age of the dinosaurs' demise on Earth. Could there be a connection? Who knows? By the way, while Saturn takes the crown for its rings, it's not the only planet in our solar system sporting them. Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune all have their own set of rings, although they might not be as visible and cool as Saturn's. However, there's something where Saturn truly stands out: the magnificent hexagon at its North Pole. It's a colossal six-sided figure. Each side of this incredible structure measures around 9,000 miles long, which is 1,200 miles longer than the Earth's diameter. Scientists aren't sure how it was formed or why. They think it might be due to varying wind speeds, or maybe it's shaped by a localized, slow, meandering jet stream. So far, it remains another of Saturn's mysteries. Much like Saturn's hexagon, Jupiter also has its own weird spot. It's called the Great Red Spot. This is a storm that's been raging for at least 350 years and is larger than Earth itself. Despite its name, the spot's coloration has varied over the years, ranging from brick red to pale salmon. Scientists continue to study this enduring storm, unlocking the mysteries of its persistence and ever-changing hues. Meteorologically, the Great Red Spot is a powerhouse. It generates enormous pressure in Jupiter's southern hemisphere. Meanwhile, Jupiter itself is a powerhouse when it comes to magnetic fields. Its magnetic influence is colossal. It extends far beyond the planet itself and creates one of the largest and strongest magnetic fields in our solar system. Because of that, Jupiter is a source of intense radiation and mesmerizing auroras. While Earth's northern lights are breathtaking, Jupiter has something to offer too. The magnetic field interacts with charged particles from Jupiter's moons and the solar wind. This creates visually striking auroras near its poles. But compared to Earth, the scale of these auroras is incredible, like nothing we've seen on our planet. But even having a cool big spot isn't a unique feature in our solar system. A stormy giant Neptune, the eighth and farthest planet from the Sun, also has its great dark spot. Just like Jupiter, it's a massive vortex in Neptune's atmosphere. But unlike its Jupiter counterpart, this spot tends to come and go because of Neptune's dynamic and ever-changing weather patterns. Neptune, together with Uranus, is known as an ice giant. And just like other giants, it boasts some of the most ferocious winds in our solar system. Its supersonic winds can get faster than 2,200 miles per hour. What a drama queen! But this explains its thick cloud formations. By the way, if you ever dreamed of a planet raining diamonds, you might want to visit this planet. Deep within Neptune's atmosphere, where pressures are extreme, scientists theorize that carbon atoms are compressed and form diamonds. And then, these diamonds might be raining down. What a unique touch to stormy weather. Neptune's moons got from their parent with the weird weather. For example, its largest moon, Triton, has a touch of cryovolcanism. Instead of spewing molten rock like Earth's volcanoes, Triton's cryovolcanoes erupt with a mix of water, ammonia, and nitrogen. Picture it as icy geysers shooting material into space. Seems like in our solar system alone, each planet has its own quirks and interesting qualities. Let's hope that we discover some more interesting things in outer space in the future. You're one of over 8 billion people alive on Earth. Let's zoom out. Our planet is just one of 8 planets in our solar system. In the galaxy, our neighborhood is just one of almost 4,000. And from what we know so far, there are billions of galaxies in the entire universe. That itself may also be growing. It's highly unlikely that we're the only living creatures in the universe. Surely, there must be some other habitable planet. Here's where the Fermi paradox comes in. The idea got its name from a man named Enrico Fermi. Back in the 50s, he pointed out that if other life forms were out there and had the tech to travel through space, they should have visited us by now. These days, we have better telescopes that allow scientists to discover over 5,000 planets outside our solar system. Yet, still no sign of life. Throughout the years, there have been many suggested solutions to the Fermi paradox. These outer world beings may be just too far away for a friendly chat. We've seen it in movies, spaceships traveling between stars as easily as cars on a highway. But in reality, making a way through space is a slow and cumbersome process. Even our fastest rocket would take thousands of years to reach a nearby star. When you add in the vastness of the cosmos, it's like trying to find a living needle in the biggest cosmic haystack available. Now, we could just as easily be the very first civilization to emerge in the universe. It's a lonely thought, and it also puts a lot of pressure on us. If we're the only ones, we need to preserve life on our planet, not just for our sake, but also because if we fade away, all life fades away with us. The universe has been around for billions of years, but intelligent life like ours has only existed for a tiny fraction of that time. Maybe we're just early bloomers, waiting for someone else to catch up. To support this theory, a study was done in 2015 using the Hubble Space Telescope. And this is what it showed. Out of all the worlds that could sustain life, only 8% are as old as the Earth. The rest of them are too young and still haven't reached that point in their evolution for life to thrive. There could also be the possibility that our galactic relatives are watching us from afar. A scientist from another planet may be studying us as primitive life forms right now. He may not want to disturb us just yet, the same way we look at ants in an ant farm during science class. On that same note, maybe they're just not ready to interact with us because they've calculated a precise, perfect timing for our meetup. So they're lying dormant in a hibernation status, and they might be right to do so. Why rush into things when we've got all of eternity ahead? There's also the idea that our planet and us humans just aren't cool enough for others to play with, and won't be until we're evolved enough to be welcomed into the Galactic High School's senior class. Or perhaps life is more fragile than we believe. A 2016 study suggested that it's in the early years of a planet where life makes its way. That's when the planet is cool enough for water to form. But those conditions may not last long thanks to the greenhouse effect. So even if life has existed in the universe every now and then, it never evolved to a stage where it could have contacted us. And what if life's ultimate test comes much later? Several thinkers believe that civilizations tend to destroy themselves at some point in their technological evolution. And this may be a potential future for us, too. We're just not there yet. Maybe we'll come to build technology so smart and so powerful that it will overwhelm us, leading to our demise. Well, if it can happen to us, who's to say it didn't happen to other species in the past, on other planets? Amidst all these theories, there's one possibility that's both sobering and profound. We may truly be alone in the universe, forever. Perhaps the conditions for life are so rare that Earth is the only oasis in a vast desert of emptiness. The creepiest answer to the Fermi paradox has a name, though, and it's called the dark forest theory. It first appeared in the 1980s. According to it, the universe is a huge version of a haunted forest, and other types of creatures are out there playing a game of hide-and-seek. It's the expanded version of the survival of the fittest. History on Earth shows that less technologically advanced groups usually end up worse off when meeting more advanced ones. The huge differences in technology often lead to a situation where attacking first seems like the best option. If there's even a small chance that cosmic neighbors might harm us, destroying them first could be our only hope. So if the galaxy is full of advanced life, it's smart for us to stay quiet and avoid contact. Other civilizations would probably reach the same conclusion. Even peaceful ones might feel forced to attack to survive. That's why some scientists criticize the idea of sending messages out there and think searching for them might be pointless. But this idea isn't new. A story from the 40s called First Contact describes humans meeting other types of civilizations for the first time. The two groups became friends, but can't risk letting each other find their home planets. They'd rather destroy each other than risk their safety. Another story, The Forge of God, talks about the danger of our signals reaching hostile species. It compares Earth's broadcasts to a baby's cries attracting wolves. It suggests that we might be in danger because of our naivete. The dark force theory was also explored in a radio play called Calls from Far Away. It shows how discovering otherworldly life on Pluto changes people's views. Some claim the news is fake, others try to understand the reality that we're not alone. But it also suggests that maybe we should focus on our own problems instead of reaching for the stars. If that doesn't sound scary, this will. We've been sending signals of our existence into the cosmos for decades now. By now, any potential civilization within 100 light-years of us might be getting our signals, and if they're advanced enough, they'll know exactly where to find us. If there's any reason why we need to hide from them, it's already too late. Galactic cousins aside, we do need to continue our research for habitable planets for a more pressing reason. Our cozy Earth won't be here forever. When our star fades, all life within the solar system will fade with it. Current estimations claim we've got about 1.3 billion years left before our planet becomes uninhabitable. It will become too hot for water to exist, and without water there is no life, at least not as we know it. So, it begs the following questions. What if there are other types of creatures out there that don't need water to exist? Our type of life needs water because it acts as a solvent. It's an environment where various chemicals can interact with each other to generate something that lives. Some new piece of research suggests that there may be a substitute for water out there in the universe – carbon dioxide. At certain temperatures and under a certain amount of pressure, it acts the same way, allowing chemicals to mingle. If that's true, then our list of known habitable planets would increase dramatically. Sure, we humans will probably never be able to survive on their surface, but other creatures may have evolved to do so. One planet that may feature these weird life conditions is closer than we think – Venus. Its atmosphere is made out of 97% carbon dioxide. It's also very hot and has enough pressure to sustain this theoretical model. So, we might be getting closer to finding a massive icy planet beyond Neptune's orbit. Sorry Pluto, still not you. Recently, some universe mapping using data from a telescope in Hawaii eliminated about 78% of the possible locations for this mysterious Waldo from space. Some people call it Planet 9, while others prefer Planet X. Either way, it's been causing controversy since its existence was first proposed, and that is mainly because no study so far can answer the big question: does it really exist? If discovered, Planet 9 would rank as the 5th largest planet in our solar system, with a mass 10 times that of Earth. It's also theorized to be gaseous, like Uranus. The initial study on Planet 9, dating back to 2016, suggests that this colossal new planet orbits the Sun 29 times farther out than Neptune, which sits at about 2.8 billion miles. As a result, the Planet 9 would take between 10,000 and 20,000 years to complete a single orbit around the Sun. If confirmed, this yet-to-be-understood world would dominate a region larger than any other known planet in our cosmic neighborhood. These are all intriguing hypotheses, but without a single piece of evidence or observation to back them up. Before dismissing this as a wild guess, it is important to note that these researchers relied on complex mathematical modeling and computer simulations to speculate about the planet's characteristics, because that's what they do. The hypothetical presence of this planet would explain various mysterious features located beyond Neptune. We are specifically talking about the Kuiper Belt, a huge donut-shaped region filled with icy debris left over from the formation of the solar system, including comets and dwarf planets like Pluto. What happens is that the 6 farthest objects in the Kuiper Belt exhibit elliptical orbits that are all oriented in a similar direction within physical space and tilted approximately 30 degrees downward relative to the orbital plane of our 8 known planets. What's strange here is that, despite their distinct orbital velocities around the solar system, they maintain this alignment. The likelihood of such alignment occurring randomly is extremely low, around 0.007%. So, here comes Planet 9, a hypothetical massive celestial body that offers a plausible explanation for this strange phenomenon, potentially exerting gravitational influence to shape these orbits. The initial theory didn't hold up for long, facing accusations of observational bias and calculation errors. Then, in 2017, another study popped up, sparking back the idea that maybe Planet 9 is out there after all. This time, Spanish astronomers tried a novel approach, focusing on observing extreme trans-Neptunian objects. These celestial bodies orbit the Sun in highly stretched elliptical paths, with average distances exceeding 13 billion miles. The research suggests that the distances between these objects' nodes and the Sun might provide clues to Planet 9's location. You see, these nodes are the points where a celestial body's orbit intersects the solar system's plane. When these objects reach these points, they're more likely to interact with other solar system bodies, potentially causing significant changes in their orbits or even collisions. So, if the trajectory of these extreme trans-Neptunian objects remains stable, everything's fine. But if it's not, well, that's a sign that something else, something big, is messing with their path. And that's exactly what the research found. There is something unseen out there, throwing these objects off course. And that something could be a planet chilling at a distance between 300 to 400 times farther from the Sun than Earth. To this day, the study of the extreme trans-Neptunian objects is the strongest evidence we've got for Planet 9's existence. And if you're still not convinced by this theory, know that strange motions like these have led to planetary discoveries before. Neptune, for instance, was spotted because Uranus's motion didn't quite agree with the predictions of Newtonian gravity. But the deflection of its orbit could be explained if it was caused by a pull of an undiscovered planet. And just like that, we discovered Neptune. Now, the year is 2021, and there's all this buzz about Planet 9 again. After correcting some old guesses, studies are now leaning towards the idea that this mystery world follows an epic loop around the Sun every 7,000 years. That is massive news, because it means this planet might be closer than we ever thought, making it easier for our telescopes to spot it. The paper also suggests there is a whopping 99% chance that the funky orbits of these distant objects are all because of this unseen planet, not just some cosmic coincidence. Now, the odds of this whole situation being a fluke are down to a 1 in 250 chance, which is much better than the 1 in 10,000 chance back in 2016. All these optimistic numbers have brought us to where we are today, keeping our hopes and working on better equipment to continue the mission of spotting Planet 9. As mentioned earlier, researchers in Hawaii created some kind of treasure map utilizing the Panoramic Survey Telescope and Rapid Response System to eliminate 78% of its locations. This is great news, considering how challenging it is to find a planet-sized needle in a cosmic haystack. But unfortunately, Planet 9's presence remains a ghost in the dark outer reaches of our solar system. Enthusiasts are still convinced of its existence and believe it is only a matter of time before we celebrate the discovery of Earth's new cosmic cousin. They're putting their hopes on the Vera C. Rubin Observatory, which is currently under construction in Chile and is scheduled to begin science operations in late 2025. Over the course of 10 years, this observatory will scan the entire southern hemisphere sky every few nights with a 27-foot, fast-moving telescope equipped with the largest digital camera in the world. The idea is to catalog everything in the solar system, reaching out to and beyond Neptune, and tracking the movements of millions of celestial objects, including space junk, asteroids, comets, and stars. If Planet 9 is indeed out there, this next-generation telescope could be the one to find it. The existence of this mysterious planet is far from being universally accepted in the scientific community. That is simply because Planet 9 isn't the only explanation for the strange phenomenon occurring beyond Neptune. One theory suggests that a group of distant objects, such as dwarf planets, comets, and moons, might be collectively influencing the orbits of the extreme trans-Neptunian objects. Others believe that a black hole is behind all this. These compressed masses are some of the densest objects in the universe, potentially capable of affecting the orbits of other masses, like how this supposed ghost Planet 9 is believed to be doing. Another bold perspective suggests that our current understanding of the laws of gravity is flawed, actually incomplete. This theory, known as modified Newtonian dynamics, proposes that these distant icy objects exhibit strange behavior not due to influence from another planet, but rather because the immense gravitational field of the Milky Way is influencing them. However, even supporters of this theory acknowledge that it is too early to draw firm conclusions, and much more extensive research is still required. While we continue our relentless hunt for Planet 9, some astronomers have taken it a step further, suggesting the existence of a hypothetical Planet 10. This world has a mass and size like that of Mars or Earth and is located on the edges of the Kuiper Belt. But the thing is, if this alleged Planet 10 is indeed as small as scientists believe, it might not have enough gravity to clear its orbit of debris. And that is pretty similar to what happens with Pluto, being one of the reasons why it got into trouble back in 2006. So yeah, it's better not to get too excited. This supposed Planet 10 might end up classified as another dwarf planet.